Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then, you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, as well as Q&A polls to take conversations with your fans to the next level. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. I'm personally getting a lot out of Spotify for Podcasters, and I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
So, you open Google Chrome on your phone, you're hunting for a super rare first edition vinyl of a band you're obsessed with, when you're supposed to be working. But this site you tapped on seems pretty shady. And Daryl from IT just jumped up from his desk. Oh no, he's coming your way. It's a good thing built-in malware protection keeps you safe and sound. Not from Daryl, though. Sorry. There's no place like Chrome. Download Google Chrome on your phone.
Yeah, but, do you think I could get, like an introduction? Greg? I already have my little Greglets running around. What do you say, Ken? Sure, but, also, fuck you. You want to weigh in here, Dad?
What are you bothering me with all this about? Fuck off!
This episode has been brought to you by Succession on HBO. Well, yes, that was a little homage to Succession. I played a little bit of the theme song there. Hopefully it was just brief enough that I don't get sued. But, hey, it's an homage. I love the show. Just, free advertising. Think about it like that, HBO or Max, whatever the fuck you are now. It's funny, my wife and I told her the other day, I was like, if I were to summarize the dialogue in Succession, it would just be, sure, but, also, fuck you. So we're always doing that, like when we say something to each other. Like, do you want to go to the store? Are we ready to go to the store, babe? Sure, but, also, fuck you. Feel free to use it. It's fun. It's really fun to do, and it makes you feel better about yourself. As always, there is a method to my madness. I was thinking about Succession, just watched the new episode last night, which is just damn good. The writing is so good. The acting's so good. The cinematography is awesome. The score, the music, it's just a great show. If you haven't seen it, watch it. But it is also kind of disgusting on some level. And it's supposed to be. They're showing a certain type of milieu in the show and a certain type of like aggressive, almost like dog eat dog type mentality. And it's just brutal. Like people fuck each other over all the time, like siblings to each other, friends to friends, family members. It doesn't matter. It's just like, if you get in the way of what I'm trying to achieve, we're going to just chew you up and spit you out. So it just got me to thinking, it's kind of a theme. Well, it's not a theme really. It's kind of a trend I see in society a little bit of highlighting and promoting that type of mentality. You watch like reality shows like the Kardashians and all this stuff. Like just do anything you can to like get ahead and get in front of everybody, get in the media. Raps like that, rocks like that. Hollywood's like that to an extent. Obviously the hedge fund and financial world is like that, or so it seems, right? It seems that way as an outsider, as an innocent bystander. So I was just thinking about, do artists really need to adopt this kind of like cutthroat attitude of like, just anything it takes, man, to get ahead? That's what I'm going to do. Anything. I'll screw over anybody. I'll do whatever I have to do. I'll work as many hours as I have to. And, I'll sell my second child for fame in the art world. Why the second child? Why not the first child? Hey, I was the second child. But you know what I'm saying here. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And teaser, I don't think you have to do that. But let's get into it. You always hear the expression like, oh, nice guys finish last. And I don't think that has to be the case. I don't think you have to be cutthroat or be completely self-centered or self-involved or narcissistic to get ahead. A lot of people say, well, all these people that are narcissists that are getting ahead in society are sociopaths is because they don't have that empathy gene. They don't have that ability to like really think back and feel something about the person that they're, eclipsing or trying to get past. I think it's more that it's just like a compartmentalization, right? But I also think that's just a generalization. I think people like to pick these things out and say, oh, this is why, this is why this person got ahead. And this is why I'm not getting ahead because I'm nice. Well, I don't think that's true either. I think we all have to get real with ourselves. I think we have to step back and really look at ourselves objectively and say, like, what am I doing? Like, what are my goals? Like I've said in previous podcasts, what do I really want to achieve? What is my end game right now? And then, you do the reverse engineering, like I said, and take the steps to get there. But then you have to be real with yourself. Like, are you actually taking those steps? And are you taking them like with the right mentality and the right energy? It's not just going through the motions. Like it has to feel right to you. It has to feel like this is something that resonates with you and that you feel good about doing. Otherwise, people can sense that or even like smell it on you that it's just, oh, this person's just like going through the motions, So that's very important. But also, like anything else, we have to be prepared to play the long game with stuff. It's not just about the quick path to success. We don't need to release like a sex tape to get famous. You know what I mean? We don't have to do, any number of things like fill in the blank here of what it takes to have a shortcut to success or fame. We don't have to do these types of things. We just have to really focus on our work. To take another page from like the Succession book, talking about investing or, having your finances in order. You don't want to invest your whole portfolio in high risk, volatile futures or something, like a cryptocurrency or whatever. Yeah, that's great. Crypto can make you some fast money, but it can also wipe you out, at least right now. That's what I've seen. It's one of those things you just can't predict. It's almost better to have just like a stable, diversified portfolio. And I've talked about that before, but it's really true. Like we have to be, first of all, doing the work. If your sales generate your cash flow and that's your currency, well, it has to be backed by a product. It has to be backed by a body of work. That's like the gold standard, right? The money that's printed is backed by gold. Well, it's not necessarily backed by gold anymore, but that's a discussion for another time. But let's say you were getting into NFTs, okay? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and just be like, now I'm an NFT artist. If you have like 500 paintings that you've amassed over the years, like you can dip your toes in, see how NFTs treat you, and maybe even dip your toes into AI art, see if it's a tool and a good resource for you. But I still think it's important to have like the gold standard of your art career, which is your body of work, like the actual physical work that you've made over the years and that you can always fall back on and sell. That's really important. And I think you should always be creating more and more of that work, because otherwise you're basically investing in a very volatile, high risk future with your art. It's like, okay, I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket with NFTs. And if that bubble bursts, or if let's just say, a few people rise to the top and everybody else is not making any money, you're kind of screwed if you've done that. If you put all your eggs into one basket for 5 or 10 years and now you don't have any work that you've been creating. So that just goes along with having a diversified portfolio. Like, for example, doing galleries, being involved with brick and mortar galleries, doing art fairs if that's your jam, doing like grants if that's something that you're interested in, doing art marketplaces online art marketplaces. That's something that's really important to me. That's like a heavy part of my portfolio. Yes, I am also doing brick and mortar galleries, and I'm also doing like studio visits, and I'm also doing my website, and I'm also, doing unique shows and pop-up shows from time to time. But, it's a big part of my portfolio. But you should always have different things. Like you shouldn't be just counting on, let's just say for shits and giggles, it's a blue chip gallery and they've got this great clientele. Well, what if the gallery owner decides that they want to sell their gallery and they don't want to do it anymore, and they don't pass it on to somebody else, and their clients just kind of float around and go to other galleries, well, you're kind of screwed. I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's probably not likely that would happen in that scenario, but you also just don't want to be focusing 100% on just one avenue to sell your work or to showcase your work. You want to be getting your work out there in as many avenues as possible that feels good to you and feels correct to you and doesn't feel like false or phony, and something that doesn't take too much of your energy. It doesn't suck you dry. You want to be completely balanced, like a balanced, diversified portfolio. So I think you get the idea here on this one. But also, you don't want to take that just like, screw over somebody else to get to the top, because that's going to come back to bite you in the ass. I think it was the Tim Ferriss podcast that said something like, the face that you step on your way to the top could be the ass you're kissing on the way to the bottom. You should always be thinking about it, not in those terms, but I just think it's always best to be a good person, to do stuff with honor and integrity, and just be showing your work, making good relationships, being polite to people. When you reach out to galleries, come at it from a respectful business perspective. Don't just be like, hey, so why the fuck didn't you let me into your gallery? That's not going to work for you. And that's, even if you're angry in the short term, maybe they're going to let you in the long term and you just burn that bridge. We've talked about that before, but it just goes into what I'm saying about playing the long game. You want to be having good customer service and giving your collectors personal attention. Like, you want to be reaching out to them. You want to be developing relationships with them through your emails, through your newsletters, and through just your correspondence with them, sending them notes, sending them holiday cards if you want to, or something like that. Just develop those relationships, because that's going to really serve you well down the road and in the future. Like, if you have a real close-knit, solid group of collectors over time that you can count on as supporters and even as friends, then that's going to continue to be paying off over time. And, you're going to be giving them your value as an artist, and they're going to be, paying you with money and keeping you going, keeping you creating. So that's also very important. And I just think that attitude, the attitude of like the me first attitude, you can see it when you go into a gallery and you talk to some artists. They're not even paying attention to you. They're just waiting for their time to talk, or they're just waiting for their time to talk about themselves, really. They want to talk about their art. They don't really care about what's going on with you. I've talked to so many artists in the gallery, and I love to hear about them, but it's just funny sometimes because they won't even be like, oh, so, what's going on with you and your art? It's just a very one-sided, transactional type relationship or conversation. And that's not going to serve you very well going forward either, because it's like you're not really developing relationships. So you want to be developing good relationships with other artists, with friends, with collectors, with galleries. You just want to be doing whatever you're doing with integrity and really thinking about the long game, not thinking about the short term, dog eat dog, fuck you over to get quick success. That's not the mentality that you want to have. And, that might get you somewhere in the short term, but it's not going to be something that serves you well in the long term, because people remember these things. If you are a jerk to somebody, if you're a jerk to somebody you work with, even if you get into a gallery and you sell out your show, let's say you have a solo show and you sell it out, but everybody who talks to you had like a weird or bad experience, or they just thought you were aloof or just kind of a jerk, and then dealing with a gallery, you were just a pain in the ass. And even if you brought in some money, they're probably not going to want to work with you over time. So really, this kind of mentality is not something that you want to be really holding up as like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like this is what I'm going to adopt as an artist to get ahead. It doesn't mean you can't have like a kind of a rebellious edge. It doesn't mean that you can't like do work that's cutting edge and all that. Sure, you can do that. You can do dark work. You can do stuff that's in your face. But when it comes to dealing with people behind the scenes, that's where the integrity and like the ethics and like the personal attention, all those things we've talked about comes into play and will serve you well. So yeah, focus on like doing whatever you want, whatever speaks to you with your art, and creating that work and like shocking people even. That's cool. That's great. People want to be shocked. People want to be like tested and intrigued by new and exciting work, but they don't want to be dealing with somebody who makes them feel like bad about themselves. So that's a very big distinction you need to make and understand when you're trying to get ahead with your art and in your art career. So this was just something I was thinking about a little bit because I think there is a little bit of a draw with that with social media, like being an influencer. Oh, like look at all these people. They're just doing all this stuff and posting, getting ahead. Da, 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 da. When you really think about it, like how many of the people that are actually following them really know anything about them? How many of these people would just like drop you like a bad habit if something changes? What happens if the social media, goes out of business or whatever? What if they change platforms or something? You lose your whole audience. These are all very transitory, and it's just better to focus on building relationships. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to beat a dead horse on this one, but it's just something to think about and to ponder while you're trying to develop your career. And even if you have a career and you've been doing it for like 20 years like I have, it's always good to have that as a refresher and be like, okay, how could I do this better? Have I been neglecting some relationships? And, should I start to tighten the screws a little bit? Thanks for listening, everybody. Looking forward to bringing you a new episode next week and some more interviews. I'm kind of ironing out some details with some people for some new interviews, so you can look forward to that. But have a great week. Be good to yourselves. Be good to everybody else out there. And try to have some integrity in what you do. Bye-bye.
Who are you again?
Yeah, sir. I'm your nephew.
Sure. But, fuck off!
This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.